Here's the thing nobody wants to hear. Your home theater does not sound bad because you bought the wrong speakers or the wrong receiver. It sounds bad because of one specific mistake that almost every home theater owner makes, and it has nothing to do with the price of the equipment. Today we are going to identify that mistake, explain exactly why it ruins your sound, and walk through the fixes that can genuinely transform how your system performs without spending a single dollar on new gear. Before we get into it, drop a comment below telling me what your current home theater setup looks like and what is frustrating you most about the way it sounds. I read every comment, and if this kind of setup content saves you money or improves your system, hit subscribe and leave a like. It genuinely helps this channel grow. The real culprit is almost never the equipment. Let us clear something up right away because it is important. Most people who are disappointed with their home theater sound immediately start thinking about upgrading. New speakers, a better receiver, a more expensive subwoofer. But in the majority of cases, the existing equipment is perfectly capable of sounding great. It is just configured incorrectly for the specific room it is sitting in. A premium system set up poorly will sound worse than a budget system set up properly. And the setup mistakes that cause this are almost always the same ones, repeated in living rooms and dedicated home theater spaces all over the world. The core problem is this: speakers that are placed incorrectly, aimed at the wrong angle, set to the wrong crossover frequency, or never properly calibrated to the room will produce sound that is muddy, dialogue that is hard to follow, bass that is either missing or too boomy, and a surround field that feels flat and unconvincing. None of those problems require new equipment to fix. They require correct setup. Mistake 1. Center channel placement and aim. If there is one speaker in a home theater system that has the most dramatic impact on how enjoyable the experience is day to day, it is the center channel. This single speaker is responsible for carrying almost all of the dialogue in a film or television show. Somewhere between 60 and 70% of the entire audio mix runs through it. And yet the center channel is also the most commonly misplaced speaker in a home theater setup. The center channel should be positioned as close to the screen as possible, either directly above or directly below the display, and it must be aimed toward the primary listening position. If it is sitting flat on a shelf tilted slightly downward toward the floor, or angled upward toward the ceiling because the shelf is too low, the sound is projecting away from where you are sitting, and the dialogue arrives at your ears with less clarity and presence than it should. A speaker like the Klipsch RP80F in the front left and right positions can produce an excellent front soundstage. But if the center channel between them is aimed even slightly off axis from the listening position, speech will feel disconnected from the picture and harder to follow than the speaker is actually capable of delivering. Tilting the center channel to aim directly at ear height in the main listening seat is often the single fastest improvement you can make to dialogue clarity in an existing system. Mistake 2. Wrong crossover settings. The crossover is the frequency setting that determines where your main speakers stop handling bass and where the subwoofer takes over. Getting this wrong is one of the most common and most damaging mistakes in home theater setup, and it is almost invisible to the casual listener because it does not obviously break the sound. It just makes everything feel slightly wrong in ways that are hard to identify. Many AV receivers, including popular models like the Denon AV-RX3700H and the Yamaha RX-A2A, have auto-configuration systems that sometimes set the crossover too low. When the crossover is set too low, say 40 or 60 Hz, the main speakers are being asked to reproduce bass frequencies they were not designed to handle efficiently. The subwoofer is simultaneously not picking up those frequencies cleanly either, which creates a gap or a muddiness in the bass response where the two systems overlap incorrectly. The standard starting point recommended by most audio engineers and calibration systems is 80 Hz. This is the value that Dolby itself recommends as a baseline for most home theater speaker configurations. Smaller bookshelf speakers or satellite speakers, like the Sony SSCS5 or the Pioneer S PFS52, may benefit from a slightly higher crossover point of 90 or even 100 Hz to ensure they are not straining to produce low frequencies they cannot efficiently reproduce. Setting the correct crossover for your specific speakers is one of the highest impact changes you can make to home theater sound without touching a single piece of hardware. Mistake 3. Skipping or misrunning calibration. Modern AV receivers come with automatic room calibration systems that are genuinely powerful tools, but only when they are used correctly. The Denon AVR-X 3700H uses a system called Odyssey. The Yamaha RXA 3080 and RXA2A use a system called YPAO, which on higher-end models includes three-dimensional measurement for more accurate results. Both of these systems work by placing a measurement microphone at the listening position and having the receiver send test tones through each speaker to measure the room's acoustic response. The mistake most people make is either skipping this process entirely and relying on the receiver's default settings, or running it once and assuming the result is perfect without reviewing the output. Calibration systems do an excellent job of setting speaker distances and basic level matching, but they sometimes make EQ decisions that are not ideal for all content, particularly in the bass region, where some systems apply cuts that can make the overall presentation sound thinner than it should. The right approach is to run the calibration system properly with the microphone at ear height in your main listening seat. Then review the crossover and level settings it produced and adjust them manually if they seem incorrect. Odyssey and YPAO give you a strong starting point, but they are not a substitute for understanding what the settings mean and making sure they reflect your room and your speakers accurately. Mistake 4. Subwoofer placement. If your bass sounds boomy, localize, meaning you can hear exactly where it is coming from rather than feeling it evenly throughout the room, or simply weak and unsatisfying, there is a very good chance your subwoofer is not in the right position. Bass frequencies are strongly affected by room acoustics and the physical positioning of the subwoofer relative to the walls. Placing a subwoofer in a corner amplifies bass significantly, but can also make it sound exaggerated in one note. Placing it on the opposite side of the room from your main speakers creates a disconnect between the bass and the front soundstage that the ear can detect as a subtle but persistent wrongness in the audio. A premium subwoofer like the SVSSB 3000 is capable of producing exceptionally accurate and room-filling bass, but only when it is positioned correctly. The general guidance for most rooms is to keep the subwoofer near the front stage, somewhere reasonably close to the front left or right speaker, so the bass blends naturally with the main system rather than arriving from a separate direction. Mistake 5. Room acoustics nobody talks about. The room itself is a part of the audio system, and most people never account for it at all. Hard surfaces like glass windows, bare tile floors, and painted walls cause sound reflections that arrive at the listening position slightly after the direct sound from the speakers. These reflections smear the audio, reduce dialogue clarity, and give the system a harsh, fatiguing quality that no amount of EQ can fully correct. Conversely, a room that is heavily treated with thick rugs, dense curtains, and soft furniture everywhere can absorb too much sound and make the system feel dull and lifeless. The goal is balance, enough absorption to control harsh reflections without killing the natural energy of the room. Even simple additions like a rug under the seating area, curtains on bare windows, and a bookshelf or two on reflective sidewalls can make a meaningful difference to how a system sounds without changing a single component. The fix is almost always free. Here is the most important takeaway from this entire video. The fixes for almost every one of these mistakes cost nothing. Repositioning the center channel, adjusting the crossover in the receiver menu, rerunning Odyssey or YPAO correctly, moving the subwoofer, and adding a rug or curtain to the room are all zero-cost changes that can make an existing system sound dramatically better than it does today. Better setup beats buying more expensive gear almost every time. A match system like the SVS Prime 5.1 speaker package set up correctly will outperform a collection of individually high-end speakers configured incorrectly. The system is only ever as good as the setup that supports it. That is every major mistake: center channel placement, crossover settings, skipping calibration, wrong subwoofer position, and room acoustics, along with the fix for each one. Before you spend another dollar on new equipment, work through this list and see what changes. Drop a comment below telling me which of these was the hidden problem in your system. Hit like if this video helped you, subscribe so you do not miss the next one, and I will see you in the next video.